I think it really is now time for the king to take action against his idiot brother, the younger brother, Prince Andrew, the Duke, the not-so-Grand Duke of York. He's always scrabbling around trying to make money, trying to make buddies, become buddies with rich people. We know one of the rich people that he became very close friends with, Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted paedophile, which brought him and the royal family into great scandal and ignominy. His own embarrassment continues to this day. He's in disgrace, and yet he's still scrabbling around for money. Now, the newspapers over the last couple of days have been full of his latest financial shenanigans, which I think are worrying. I think this is a matter of national security. It turns out that he has been assisting a Grenadian former ambassador to Russia. He's been helping him raise £8 billion. The company is called, they're an investment company, they're called Waterberg Sterling. And Oleg Führer, the former ex-man in Moscow, the former man in Moscow for Grenada, he's vice chairman of this company. Now, this company is linked to China's ongoing Belt and Road Initiative, and that basically is a plan. They globally build infrastructure for developing countries, what we used to call third world countries, and thereby spread Beijing's influence all over the planet, around the world. Andrew apparently has been engaged in passing on the contacts he made in his Dragon's Den style pitch at the palace. You remember he used to host these events where people would come with their business ideas and he put them in. It was quite a nice idea, but that was just before his downfall over his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, and that ever since then he's been in disgrace, Newsnight interview and so on and so forth. But this strikes me. We're talking about getting involved in a business that is linked to China's bid to spread its own influence around the world. A member of the royal family shouldn't be doing this. This is national security. Let's talk to a former senior military intelligence officer, Philip Ingram. Hello, Philip.
Good evening, Kevin.
Yeah, this is quite worrying, don't you think? I mean, you know, if he must go around trying to scrounge money off some paedophile, not a great idea, but it doesn't particularly affect this nation. It affected the royal family, plunged him into great embarrassment, and it affected himself. But this is a company that's linked to China's Belt and Road Initiative, and therefore I think this is a matter of national security, and I think the king should step in and say, Andrew, enough, don't you think?
I think it's a matter of reputation where the king should step in and say, look, Andrew, take a step back and stop dealing with countries and individuals who are potential security threats. Has Andrew got anything that is going to be a secret and going to give the keys to something that could be exploited by China or the Russians? No, not really. And again, if we put it into the context of our government is giving Chinese contractors access to building wind farms off our coast, which is part of our critical national infrastructure, and that's only come out in the press today, then what he's doing is very minor indeed. He's extremely naive. He has been the whole way through. He's an unpleasant individual. He's always been like that, and that naivety is being exploited by individuals and countries who are hostile to our way of living.
Yeah, I must admit, I think this is a serious story. It's an important story, but my first reaction was, well, what would a serious investment company need of someone like Prince Andrew? What use could he possibly be? But apparently it's handing over details of contacts he made.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget he was a business envoy for this country for a long time, where he flew around the world mostly playing golf, but allegedly helping this country's business activities around the planet. But this company, this investment company, Waterberg Sterling, are trying to raise £8 billion. And in their documentation, in their pamphlet, he's named, this is where he's so unwise. He's referred to as HRH. And he's so unwise to let himself be used like this, let his name get involved. And as I say, You're right. I mean, it doesn't cut right to the heart of, issues that could badly affect this country. But it's a really bad look for the royal family, and I just think the king should step in.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's a very bad look for the royal family, and in that, a bad look for the country. They're after his little black book of contacts. I'm surprised because they clearly don't have good people advising them on their marketing. If they're using him as someone that they're putting on as one of their ambassadors, or in their brochures and all the rest of it, they clearly haven't done the research on the reputation that he's got in this country. So that reputation will drag their name down a bit. But the Chinese won't really care much about that. The Russians won't care much about that. They will just see this senior official, because they won't see the difference between someone who's a politician or someone who's royal family. This senior, very well linked individual, that's part of the company, and they'll be using that to try and market themselves to get additional money. It's huge naivety, and he should be strongly advised to step back. Security services will be all over this.
Yeah, he is. His foolishness knows no bounds, and with sympathy, I have some sympathy for the king, because I just think he's like a sort of naughty child. He's very difficult to control, but I think the Riot Act should be read to him right now. While I've got you, Philip, let me ask you about this. President Trump, I mean, it looks as if the ceasefire... Yeah, you knew this was coming. The ceasefire in Gaza looks precarious, to say the least. It looks like it's going to collapse for reasons that are on record. The Hamas, somewhat stunned by the fact they're releasing these people who look like they've just come out of Belsen. Hamas, so inhumane are these people that they didn't realise this might not reflect well on them. They're reneging on the deal. And President Trump has said, you renege on that deal, you do not release all of those hostages by this Saturday midday, which is the deal, the agreement. President Trump said all hell will break loose. Hamas calling his bluff, say, never mind your threats, not time to make threats. Now, you know what they say about President Trump, take him seriously, but don't take him literally. Well, what I want to ask you about, I haven't got long, but apparently a number of B-52 bombers, unannounced, have landed here in Britain within shooting distance, if I can put it that way, of Gaza. What do you think might be going on? Because President Trump is busy proving that when he makes threats, he means it.
Very much so. The B-52s are there to threaten Hamas. They're there to threaten any of the opponents of Israel. They're also there to threaten Vladimir Putin, and force him to the negotiating table with regard to Ukraine. Hamas, I'm hearing behind closed doors that Hamas are going to comply with what the original agreement was this weekend and release, I think it's another 4 hostages. But President Trump had said all of the hostages, and Prime Minister Netanyahu had reiterated, we'll accept all of the hostages, otherwise we're going to go back to war. So there's this slight uncertainty as to what's actually going to happen this weekend, and I think Hamas are nervous. President Trump's not going to want to get involved in direct conflict into Gaza and with Hamas, because that would mean at some stage potentially having to put ground troops in and it becoming very, very messy indeed. So he's using a really big stick, and as big a stick as he can get his hands on, and B-52s are pretty big sticks.
Indeed, they certainly are. Biggest planes in the world, and serious bombing machines, death machines, if you like. But I think Hamas, and I'm glad to see it, to be honest with you, they're very discombobulated by this guy. There's a new sheriff in town, and he doesn't play by the rules that they're used to. And it looks as if, once again, Donald talking tough is going to pay dividends.
Oh, very much so. Before he got inaugurated, he turned around and said, if the hostages aren't released by the time I'm inaugurated, then all hell will break loose. And he keeps reiterating that. Hamas were stupid in coming out in the way they did, and effectively sticking 2 fingers up at the West and at the Israelis in the way they've been parading the hostages and giving them goodie bags and dressing them in uniforms and everything else. That has not gone down well in Israel, and has not gone down well in the White House.
In the world as well. Philip, I've got to go, but great to speak to you as always. Philip Ingram there, Senior Military Intelligence Officer.